Good evening, everyone. നമ്മുടെ അസാപ്പ് ഓൺലൈൻ സെഷനിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവരും വെൽക്കം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് എക്കണോമിക്സിൻ്റെ ഒരു സെഷനാണ് നമ്മൾ എടുക്കുന്നത്. നമുക്ക് ഇന്നത്തെ ഫാക്കൾട്ടി വീണ മാഡം ആണ്. മാഡം ISLM എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ എക്കണോമെട്രിക്സിലെ ടോപ്പിക്കാണ് എടുക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത്. വെൽക്കം യു മാം. ഈ സെഷനിലേട്ടും മാമിനെ വെൽക്കം ചെയ്യുന്നു. മാം, യു ക്യാൻ ടേക്ക് ഓവർ ദി സെഷൻ.
Thank you, Deepthi. And hello, students and friends. I'm here to discuss with you an important topic in macroeconomics, that is ISLM model. And we are here to discuss a very elementary part of the ISLM model, that is our discussion is restricted to the two sectors of the economy. Two sectors of the economy. Two sectors means household sector and business sector. So before getting into the intricacies of the ISLM model, I thought it would be better to explain the traditional macroeconomics from the classical framework. Now, right from classical orthodoxy till Keynesian, the whole macroeconomics has been widely described with main four markets in the economy. And they are the labor market, commodity market, money market, and the bond market. Now, out of these four markets can be combined into two sectors of the economy, and these two sectors are real sector and financial sector. Now, the real sector consists of these real sector variables like total output, employment, relative prices, etc. Whereas the financial sector consists of the financial assets, or mainly two assets. They are money and bonds. And nowadays, with the latest development, then there is proliferation and diversification of many financial institutions that leads to lot of different kinds of financial assets. But our ISLM, in discussing our ISLM model, we are restricting with two assets. They are money and bonds. Now, what does the traditional macroeconomic theory speak all about? The traditional macroeconomic theory treated the real sector and the financial sector separately. And traditional macroeconomics, they treated the real sector and the financial sector separately. Now, the traditional value theory or the traditional macroeconomic theory that concerned with the real sector of the economy, and whereas the financial sector addresses the traditional monetary theory was concerned with financial assets. So this way of treating financial sector and the traditional value sector separately is what is called classical dichotomy. This is the basic thing that we have to understand. So before Keynesian economics has come up, the prevailing orthodoxy that has roamed around the macroeconomic thought was classical orthodoxy, and they treated the financial sector and real sector or the traditional value sector separately. So what does it mean when they treat these two sectors separately? It means that the intricacies or the happenings that are involved in one particular sector does not have an effect upon the other sector, or the happenings in the real sector does not have an effect upon the monetary sector. So, and when in 1936, when Keynesian economics gained popularity with his really famous book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, Keynes took the first step to integrate the real sector of the economy with the monetary sector of the economy. So the first step of integrating real sector of the economy with the monetary sector is Keynesian. Okay. Now, after Keynesian economics, when the importance of Keynesian economics was happening all around in macroeconomics, there comes a leading British economist in 1937, J.R. Hicks, with his article, Mr. Keynes and Classics, a Suggested Interpretation in 1937. and he integrated the real sector with the monetary sector of the economy. And this particular article has been widely discussed in the econometric conference, and all the leading econometricians of the world has gone through this particular paper, and finally this paper has got published in the leading economic journal, Econometric. Later it was Alvin Hansen who extended the ISLM model with policy implications, and therefore this particular ISLM model is known as Hicks-Hansen synthesis. Now, with this background, we will really push into what ISLM model is all about. The ISLM model that forms the core of short-term macroeconomics. And this particular model builds an explicit framework with which to study the interaction of the goods market and the asset market. And this new framework leads to an understanding of the determination of interest rate and their role in business cycle. So every model that we discuss in macroeconomics that do have policy repercussions. So in these policy repercussions are to be carried out for the general welfare of the economy as a whole. So in order to this ISLM model, which has been built in this Keynesian framework, led to the understanding of how interest rate has been determined and the importance of interest rates in the business cycle. Business cycle, we know the movement of the economy from boom to depression, again to boom, and all that stuff. Now, as I have already mentioned, since the ISLM, the whole framework has been built with Keynesian economics, as we know, for Keynes, what is more important is demand management, and he says that autonomous spending and fiscal policy were the chief determinants of aggregate demand. So, in order to push aggregate demand, what he says is that if there is unemployment, I always believed in underemployment equilibrium, and if there is underemployment equilibrium, in order to boost up the aggregate demand, the government should interfere in the economy and with the form of some policies so as to boost the economy or to revive the economy. So, aggregate interest rate has been found as a determinant of investment, and therefore it pushes up the aggregate. Now the question is, what determines this interest rate? Now, it's this particular question of what determines interest rate which forms the basis to extend our model to include both the money market and forces us to study the goods and money market on a single frame. So it is this particular question of what determining the interest rate that enables to include the money market and thus providing a framework to study the interaction of goods and money market. Now, this particular variable which we are talking about, that is the interest rate and income, are jointly determined by equilibrium in both goods and money market. So, interest rate and income are jointly determined in goods and money market in the ISLM framework. This is the particular simple framework of ISLM model. The ISLM model, we have a structure. This income is the aggregate income in the economy. That is what is called Y, or national income. And this income is comprises of Y is equal to E, that we have learned in our earlier classes. And this income is component of two sessions, that is asset market and goods market. In the asset market, we have money market, and at the same time we have bond market, whereas in the goods market we have aggregate demand out. And there is demand for and supply of assets in the money market. Similarly, there is demand for and supply of demand forces and supply forces in the bond market also. This aggregate demand output is composed of consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus, if you are including foreign sector, X minus. And these two markets, asset market and goods market, are being integrated through this component called interest rate. Any change in the asset market is brought by the monetary policy variables, because asset market is where it is financial market. Therefore, the monetary policy variables is the exchange rate channel through which any change in the asset market is taken place. And whereas in the aggregate demand, it is the fiscal policy variables, that is government expenditure and taxation, that restores equilibrium or that makes necessary changes in this particular sector. Now, we come to the interaction, how the interaction of real and monetary sector is taking place in the economy. Before discussing this, how the interaction of monetary and real and monetary sector is taking place, I introduce you to the IS curve and the LM curve. It shows the combination of, what is the IS curve? It shows the combination of interest rates and levels of income at which the goods market clear. Where then, what is LM curve? It shows the interest rates and income levels at which money market clear. Now, having said about IS curve and LM curve, let us go one by one of how to derive the IS curve, then how to derive the LM curve. In order to derive the IS curve, we have to understand how goods market equilibrium is taking place, and how from the goods market equilibrium we can derive the IS schedule or the IS curve. Now, when trying to explaining about the LM curve, we need to more focus upon the monetary policy variables. So it is financial market, and money is in any monetary economy, money performs its function as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, or a store of value. So basically, all these three functions that money performs, functions as a medium of exchange, of account, and store of value. Once money performs store of value function, it acts as an asset. So the store of value function of an asset links past with the future time periods. Now, as I said, there are surplus units and deficit units that is being operated in the economy. And these surplus unit needs a means by which they want to carry forward to future their purchasing power. Whereas in the case of deficit units, they want to borrow by means of these financial securities. And basically, with the in ISLM model that we speak about, securities are bonds. So, securities are assets to surplus unit, whereas these are liabilities to deficit. Since there are surplus units and at the same time deficit units in an economy, there will be a process of borrowing and lending. And in the process of borrowing and lending, two important decisions are to be taken, that is expenditure decision and portfolio allocation decisions. In due course of time, with the process of borrowing and lending, there will be accumulation of financial assets over time. And trading takes place in newly issued assets as well as existing financial assets. So the economic units that is being operationalized in the economy has to take two distinct decisions. And the decisions they have to take are what proportion of the income is to be spent. And these decisions are to be taken both by the household and by the firm. And for the household, how much of the income is to be saved. And for a firm, how much of the income is to be invested. And now, there are portfolio decisions are also to be made. What type of the liabilities are to be assured? That is, the securities or liabilities for the deficit unit. So, a deficit unit has to think about what type of liabilities they can assure. Whereas the surplus unit will keep on thinking about what types of assets they can help, because what type of assets they are to be held. Now, So we have come to a situation, come to the point where for a household, the important decision is that how much of the amount money is to be saved, and for a firm, the important decision is how much of the money to be invested. And since we are introducing household and firm in the goods market, and here we have to understand one particular point. We can move to a what we call a macroeconomic equilibrium point. Now, so when you integrate your real sector with the monetary sector, you will achieve a general equilibrium in the economy. And before achieving a general equilibrium in the economy, you need to achieve equilibrium in the goods market, at the same time equilibrium in the money market. And in the goods market, there is flow of goods, at the same time the flow of goods is being sponsored. That means there is flow of expenditure. So identically we can write, or in notational form, you can write S is equal to I. S is what? That is savings. Savings is equal to always equal to investment. Therefore, in the goods market, there is a flow equilibrium that exists. What about financial market equilibrium? In the financial market also, there is demand for financial assets. Otherwise, there is supply of financial assets. Both the financial assets are stock. What are the things that is being traded in the financial market is what are the assets that are being traded in the financial markets are stocks. So both are stock concepts. Supply and demand are stock concepts. Therefore, a stock equilibrium exists in the financial market. Now let us move to the formal construction of ISLM model. As any model in economics that we speak about, all models are rest with certain assumptions, and assumptions are important to operationalize a particular model. And since we are dealing with two-sector economy, we always expect assume that there is economy is closed. When economy is closed, means there is no foreign trade that is being allowed in the economy. Now, the price level is constant and is exogenously fixed. Now, as I already mentioned, this particular ISLM model is based upon the insights from Keynesian economics, and Keynes, as we know, he is a demand management economist, and he is a short-run economist, and he will therefore he says that in the short run aggregate supply is fixed, and therefore the price is also the price level that is prevailing in the economy is exogenously fixed. Now, the third assumption is that all variables are in real terms. All variables real terms means adjusted for the price level. Now, how does then a shift in the aggregate demand takes place? An aggregate demand shifts for a given price level. For a given price level, the national income fluctuates because of the shifts in aggregate demand. So, for the given price level P, the national income fluctuates because of the shifts in aggregate demand. I mentioned you the components of aggregate demand. It is plus I plus D plus X M, and we are not allowing foreign sector. So X minus M component is and we are restricting to a two-sector economy. So government sector is also not included. Now we formally derive the goods market and the IS curve. And the goods market and the IS curve that pertains to the real sector of the economy. And real sector of the economy is basically the commodity market, labor market and the commodity. Now, what does an IS curve shows? It plots the relationship between interest rate and level of income that arises in the market for goods and services. So the interest rate it's a locus of combination of interest rates and level of income at which the good market is in equilibrium. Now, before further explaining the goods market equilibrium, I would like to have a brief discussion of Keynesian proofs. And Keynesian proofs, we are all familiar with. And in the Keynesian proofs, we have an aggregate aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. O is equal to E. And to explain Keynesian proofs, we need to know that actual expenditure, that is Y, and the planned expenditure, that is E. So in macroeconomic equilibrium, Y is equal to E. Now, what is this actual expenditure? Actual expenditure is the amount households, firms, and government they spend on goods and services. The amount households, firms, and government they spend on goods and services. What about planned expenditure? Planned expenditure is the amount that households, firms, and government would like to spend on goods and services. So there is always a difference between an actual expenditure and planned expenditure, and actual expenditure can be either more or less of planned expenditure, and that happens. Now, the Keynesian proofs can be diagrammatically explained as follows. You have your actual expenditure Y is equal to E, and you have the planned expenditure E is equal to C plus I plus. And though it is a two sector, I am just including government sector because Keynesian economics, Keynes is an economist, always favored government intervention into the economy. The economy is at equilibrium at point A, where the actual expenditure is equal to planned expenditure. So how does this adjustment takes place? It is basically taking place on the availability of the stock of inventories. Now, having said that, let's just move to the determinants of planned expenditure. For a closed economy, the planned expenditure E is the sum of consumption, planned investment, and government purchase. So E is equal to C plus I plus G. What is consumption? If you bifurcate or you try to see via consumption. Consumption is equal to your income minus taxes. So consumption is a function of income, and that too consumption is a function of disposable income. What is disposable income? It is Y minus P. So consumption depends on disposable income. Now we have planned investment. Investment is something that is exogenously fixed. Exogenously fixed. The exogenous variables are those variables determined outside the model. Now, the other fiscal policy, since we have included G as a component over here, the other fiscal variables such as levels of government purchases and taxes are fixed. So G is equal to G bar and T is. So combining all these first 5 equations, you will get an equation like this. Okay? You can prove that your planned expenditure is a function of income. So this particular planned expenditure function is the first piece of Keynesian proofs. Now, the second piece of Keynesian proofs is the assumption that the economy is in equilibrium when actual expenditure is planned. Y is equal to. And how does the economy brings equilibrium? The economy retains equilibrium may be explained more with the role of inventories in the adjustment process of equilibrium. Suppose if there is always investment takes place based on expectations, and suppose if they sell, they are not expected, their sales have not reached up to their expectation, there will be a good lot of commodities which are piled or they are in the stock or inventory. So what will they do? So they will reduce investment the next time so that the equilibrium will be restored. With that, we move to how interest rate and investment are determined in the ISL. So the ISLM model that integrates the real sector with the financial sector postulates that investment is inversely dependent upon the rate of interest. So consumption is dependent on income that is being income in the level of income in the economy. It's a function of income. Whereas investment is what? Investment is inversely related with rate of interest. So higher the rate of interest, lesser the investment. From the national income accounts identity, we can write y minus c minus d, because y is equal to c plus I plus d, and that equation can be rewritten as y minus consumption expenditure minus government expenditure is equal to I. So income minus all these consumption expenditure and income minus expenditure, government expenditure is what? The component of savings. Therefore, S is equal to I. And S is equal to I is the condition of a goods market. Saving should always be equal to investment. Now, you need to know a bit about the component of saving and the component of investment. Investment means the demand for capital goods which produces additional goods and services in the future. So, you are doing investment this year and you are expecting investment over a period of time. So, investment always has a net present value component and a marginal efficiency of investment component. Now, so your present investment is always based on the expectations you will get from future sales. In that sense, you need to know the present value of an investment project. The net present value of an investment project is the discounted value of all revenues minus the discounted value of all costs. And symbolically, based on this equation, equation number 10, you can calculate the net present value of investment. Now, these R1, R2, R3, etc. are the revenue that is being expected over the years. I is the rate of interest, and which is the discount component over here. Now, since in the goods market you expect savings always equal to investment. Investment in the ISLM model, it's an inverse function of rate of interest. Investment is always an inverse function of rate of interest. Similarly, this particular variable, if you differentiate investment with respect to interest, it will the first di by the differential coefficient of investment with respect to interest rate is less than 0. That means it is an inverse function of rate of interest. Now come to this next component, savings. And savings are always assumed to depend directly on the level of income. Now, even if your income is near 0, then also there will what happens is that there will be savings in the economy. Now, savings is equal to, that's why this minus A component has come over there, and S is equal to minus of A plus SY, where small s is your marginal propensity to save. And from this equation, it's understood that savings is a component of level of income that is being. And in the ISLM model, we have two endogenous variables that are to be sold. And you know what the distinction between an endogenous variable and an exogenous variable. An endogenous variable is one where the values are determined within the model. In the ISLM model, we have level of national income and rate of interest as endogenous variables. That means we need to solve for level of national income and rate. Then, coming again to the point that we have already discussed, for a goods market to be in equilibrium, planned savings must be equal to planned investment. That is, S is equal to I. Now, what is savings? Savings is A minus small s y. And what is investment? I small I. So y is, if you can solve for y from here. So y is equal to A plus II by. The above equation shows that there are various combinations of national income and rate of interest which make saving equal to investment. So this particular income, we are solving for this particular equation, that is equation number 12, explains the various combinations of national income and rate of interest which make saving equal to investment. Now, the locus of goods market equilibrium values of real output and interest rate, which makes S is equal to I, savings is equal to investment, is the IS schedule. Now we have come to the IS schedule. So graphically, we can derive how an IS schedule can derive. Now we have quadrant 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we have this savings function in the first one. So at S0 level of income, level of savings, the real income that is being prevalent in the economy is twice. At that S0 level of income, the goods market is the investment at equilibrium, where S is equal to I at I0 level of investment. And this quadrant 3, where you find the investment function. So you have to remember all those equations that we have come across. So this is the savings equation. This is equal to S is equal to I, the macroeconomic equilibrium equation. This is the investment function, and this is the IS. Then at quadrant 3 explains the level of investment and the rate of interest. So to maintain I0 level of investment, the rate of interest should be I. And from there we can move to the IS schedule. You have this real income over here and interest rate at y-axis, and there is an equilibrium point where your real income equates the interest rate. So for that case B, point A, and this particular point A is one of the point where your goods market is in equilibrium, where S is equal to I given the with the rate of interest and real income. So it's a locus. A point A is the locus of combination of real income and interest rate at which goods market is in equilibrium. Okay. Now you'll move to the next position. When savings come down to S1, what happens? The rate of investment in the economy will also change. So we always need to maintain this identity. S is high. And from here also, the interest rate, when the interest here in quadrant 3, to maintain I level of investment, you need your interest rate to be at I1 rate of II rate of investment. We need our interest rate to be at I1. Subsequently, now you come to this quadrant 4, where you have the interest rate and real income combination point B, where your goods market is in equilibrium. So once you join these points A and B, we get what is called the IS. A and B are the locus of combination of goods market equilibrium points where S is equal to I, or the I at which interest rate is equal to real income, or the level of income. Now, so hence every point in the IS curve contains a combination of rate of interest and income at which goods market or the real sector is in equilibrium. The locus of points at which the combination of interest rate and income takes where I is equal to I is the IS schedule. So all this explains the happenings in the real sector of the economy. Now, but to explain the ISLM model, it's not sufficient that we need to restrict to ISLM model alone, because we are integrating financial sector with the with the goods sector, goods market, or the real sector. Therefore, from the financial sector, we need to derive the LM curve. So, what is LM curve? So it is the locus of combination of equilibrium points, the financial markets where the real rate of interest and real income is in equilibrium. So when explaining the LM curve, we need to know the financial profile. And basically there are two financial assets that has been discussed in the framework of ISLM. One is money, which is a liquid asset. The second one is bond. So though there are different financial instruments, bonds are the one that has been discussed throughout in the ISLM framework. Now, in these, money is the most liquid asset, whereas bonds are less liquid compared to money. Now, when keeping a bond, keeping a money is basically meant for the transactions return, and keeping a bond promises you two types of returns. One is a capital fair. One is that it gives you a capital fair. The second one is that there is a promises a fixed annual return. So, the liquidity of any asset, whether it is bond or is a concept which includes element of time, transactions cost, and the risk of loss associated with turning the asset into money, turning the asset into or liquid. Since the financial asset that we are discussing in the ISLM framework is bond, we need to understand the characteristic of a bond and the relation of the bond with the rate of interest. What is a bond? A bond can be defined as a negotiable instrument promises to pay its holder a certain fixed amount of money at some regular interval in the future and eventually at some future time a larger amount of money. Now, keeping a bond gives you a return from the bond, that is the earlier thing, and plus the principal. Now, bond price, how can you calculate the bond price? Bond price is this equation AN plus 1 plus I and be used to calculate the bond price. So, AN is basically the annual amount that has been returned from for keeping a bond, and I is the rate of interest. Rate of interest, of course, over the years it becomes the bond plus R is the initial cost. And there is a truth that we all know in macroeconomics is that if bond prices rise, the yield or current interest rate falls. So there is always an inverse relationship between price of bonds and rate of interest. So when rate of interest is high, bond price will fall. Rate of interest falls, bond prices rise. There is always an inverse relationship between price of bonds and rate of interest. Now, we come to the demand for money aspect. The desire to demand for money, hold money, derives basically from a medium of exchange and as basically from a functions of money as a medium of exchange and at the same time as a store of value. We need money to meet all transactions in the economy, that's basically for the medium of exchange, and transactions demand for money is therefore and always a function of income. And if you express the demand for money in real terms, then you can divide the demand for money by price level that is being prevailed in the economy. So dividing MD by P will give you what the real income in the economy. Now, money has one more function to perform as a store of value, and therefore money is also demanded to keep as an asset. So, how can you keep money as an asset? You have to invest in some security, and the security whereby we invest is basically bonds. There is always a choice between keeping money in liquid form and as well as an asset or as well as an asset. Some form of security. So, when as I have already mentioned, when bond price is low, that is rate of interest is high, the demand for money as an asset is low and demand for bond is high. Thus, the asset demand for money is inversely related to rate of interest. You can say that the real demand for money is a direct function of real income and an inverse function of and an inverse function of rate. Now, we expect a stock equilibrium in the financial sector. As I have already mentioned, the assets that is being traded in the financial sector are stock concepts or stock components. Therefore, we expect a stock equilibrium in the financial sector. Now, let us see how LM function has been derived. How did we derive equilibrium in the goods market? Equilibrium in the goods market is achieved from S when S is equal to I. Savings is equal. Now here equilibrium in the money market or financial market is achieved when the demand for money is equal to the supply of money. And this particular diagram explains this equilibrium. The supply of money is always a constant. Demand for money is negative. Keeping the supply of money constant, when demand for money increases, the rate of interest. Let us see how LM curve has been. This particular diagram shows the market for real money balances. This vertical straight line shows that supply of money is being stock of is being or remains constant. This shows the demand for money. Now, since the supply of money remains constant, there is an increase in the demand for money. What happens is that the rate of interest has this. In that case, can parallel plotting these components for constructing LM curve, you can find that these locus of points where your real income is equal to rate of interest gives the LM curve. So the combination of these points where the rate of interest and rate of interest is something consistent or that is equal to real income is the LM curve. LM curve shows the combination of interest rates and level of income that are consistent with the equilibrium in the market for real money balances. Since we have derived goods market equilibrium and money market equilibrium, a simultaneous formula or a general equilibrium of this goods market and the money market gives your IS explains the general equilibrium of the economy. Now, IS curve that we have derived is a downward sloping curve. IS curve consists of two components, investment and savings. So, when S is equal to I, the goods market will be in equilibrium. So, the rate of interest that is consistent with the real income for the goods market to be in equilibrium. The IS curve. We have derived the IS curve as downward sloping. Now, what about the LM curve? The LM curve shows the combination of rate of interest and real income where the money market is in equilibrium. So, the equilibrium, the LM curve, that is something an upward sloping curve, upward sloping. So, a simultaneous equilibrium of IS curve and LM curve gives the goods and money market equilibrium, the general equilibrium that is being prevailed in the economy, and that is attained at point E, where both the real income Y0 over and the rate of interest. This is how the ISLM curve or ISLM model is derived. Now, what I can conclude by saying that the ISLM model converges both goods market and the monetary sector. With these two markets, it holds for two endogenous variables, and the endogenous variables are output and interest. Thus, the simultaneous equilibrium is brought into with interest rate and income levels to be such that the goods market and so it is quite customary to speak about the limitations of any model. Now, the ISLM model has been has these two basic limitations. The model fails to determine the output, interest rate, and price level that is fails to simultaneously, or that they fails to determine at the same time output, interest rate, and price simultaneously. Simultaneously. But that it can be later theories has come up by saying that later theories has come up by saying that this can be sold by including labor market also. The second thing is that this ISLM model is basically explained in a static framework. So it is not being explained in a dynamic framework. In a dynamic framework is one where you can incorporate the time element, and we can understand the movement of movement from one equilibrium position to now. And for the elementary level, I think I can conclude here. And if you have the one important question that you can expect is that critically evaluate the ISLM model. Now, other important question. Now you can there is I think the syllabus is restricted up to elementary level, and therefore or you can expect how we'll derive the IS curve or derivation of the LM curve and all. Supply side economics is very important after the ISLM model. The post-Keynesian economics, the extension policy extension or like policy implications of the ISLM model. That is also important, but these policy implications you need to see how fiscal policy makes shifts in the aggregate demand curve, and how monetary policy makes shifts, and all that things are important. And afterwards, this monetarism is again important, supply side economics, and all these topics are very, very, very important, particular way.
ഓക്കെ, ഈ സബ്ജക്റ്റിന് മാഡം എന്തെങ്കിലും റെഫറൻസ് ഉണ്ടോ? ഒരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്, റെഫറൻസ് ബുക്സ്.
Reference, you can check Levosik and Rebman, current controversies in introduction to classical and neoclassical controversies. That is one very good book. The second one is Macroeconomics by Gregory Mankiw. These two books are very good. And Mankiw's book is very lucidly and simply written, and really it's good. And if you are going for a bit more an exhaustive study, you can look into Levosik and Rebman, Macroeconomics and Introduction to Keynesian. ഈ രണ്ട് ബുക്ക് കൂടാതെ പിന്നെ ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നത് Macroeconomics in the Dornbusch and Fisher. That is a very nice. If you prefer with foreign authors, these three books are really good. In Indian authors aanengil Rana and Verma you can think of really good. Then one more thing is Ackley's Macroeconomics is basically good books to refer.